Well, good evening. I now welcome representatives from Airservices Australia. Do you have anyone have an opening statement?
I'll just table an opening statement if that's okay.
Yes, I'm
Thank you very much.
Happy to accept that. Thank you very much. And then I will give the call to Senator Almond Payne. You have the call.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks everyone for being here so late in the evening. Although I'm glad we got to you now. I was worried we weren't even going to get on by 11, so that's great. My first lot of questions are around the Noise Action Plan in Brisbane. So does the Noise Action Plan contain any success metrics or KPIs?
Senator, thank you very much. Brisbane is a focus and remains a focus with Package 3. We've got quite specific actions. I'll pass to Ms O'Day, who heads up Risk, Noise and Environment, to answer the specific question.
Very good. Thank you, Senator. Jackie O'Day, Chief Risk, Noise and Environment Officer, Airservices Australia. In terms of KPIs, no. The Noise Action Plan for Brisbane doesn't contain any specific KPIs.
Okay, so how do you know if it's actually successful then if you don't have anything to measure that?
So, Senator, there are many things that we do in order to determine the success or otherwise of the flight path designs that we implement. And I can say that, they won't always please all of the community all of the time, but we do track, for example, our adherence to noise abatement procedures. So we now have a new reporting and monitoring system for our noise abatement procedures so that the community can see very transparently how we are adhering or otherwise to those procedures. In terms of how we actually track as well, we track our SOD props performance, so you may be familiar, I'm not sure, with that particular mode of operation. So we have set ourselves a target around that, and we do track that on our website, and that's very available and transparent for everybody to see as well. But we don't have specific KPIs.
Okay.
Senator, the Noise Action Plans actually set out recommendations which have been well researched and canvassed with the community. We do track those actions, and there's 28 fully complete out of the 65 actions. We've got another 16 that are due off the back of the current package. So we do look at the actual recommendations off the back of the hard work and make sure that we're delivering those.
Would I be able to get on notice a list of what those actions are and which ones you say are completed?
Yes, we'll take that on notice.
All right, thank you. Notwithstanding that, though, would it be correct to say that there's been no reduction in noise since the Noise Action Plan began implementation?
No, Senator, I don't believe that would be correct to say. So, again, it depends which communities you're talking about. So for some people, yes, there will have been a reduction in noise. For others, there is noise sharing that occurs, so they are receiving less noise or less overflight at different times of the day or the night, given it's Brisbane. So there have been a number of things actually that have taken place that we've implemented that have actually led to specific reductions in noise.
Could I get a clarification then? If you say that some communities have had a reduction, some have had noise sharing, are there any communities that haven't had a reduction yet? Senator, I'm not sure that I could answer that off the top of my head, but I can probably get that. Well, could I get on notice then a list of each community and where you say noise has gone down, where it's the same and where it hasn't gone down? Sure. Please, on notice, that'd be really helpful. When will the Package 3 consultation results be released?
So Package 3, we expect to be able to make an announcement on final flight paths by the middle of next year in relation to Package 3.
Okay. Have there been any internal evaluations of the recent engagement community meetings for Package 3?
Senator, I've only been with Airservices for a period of about 6 months, but certainly not in that time. There haven't been any. I might defer to my colleague, Mr. Curran, to answer that.
Senator, no, I'm not aware of any internal reviews regarding the Package 3 consultation.
Okay. Could you just take that on notice just to confirm?
Yes.
Interested to know then what the reason is for the shift from community forums to individual appointments. It sort of feels like certainly some of the feedback from the community is it feels like people are just being split up and just being given these tiny little blocks of time rather than a wholesale community forum. So is there a reason why that was changed?
Senator, we do still conduct community forums. Most of those are happening online. So we actually had 36 online sessions which were open to anybody who wished to attend them.
Are they a question and answer forum, or are they just a forum where you just watch a video and get information?
Questions and answers, so there is an opportunity for questions during those online sessions. We also ran we made available 484 20-minute slots for individuals to come and meet with our people and discuss the changes.
Were they fully booked out?
No, so that only 354 of those slots were actually used.
Did you have any particular areas where some were booked out? And the reason I ask that is that some participants have told us that they were fully booked and some of them within minutes. That includes the Ashgrove session. We had people from Ashgrove saying that they couldn't get onto that at all. And they said it was the only one that was in the electorate of Ryan. Is that right?
Senator, I'd have to take that on notice to check. In fact, Senator, I may be able to give you the answer to that question before the end of our time here this evening, if you're happy for me to consult with a colleague and see if we can get that answer for you.
Yep, that'd be very helpful. Why was it only that the Bulimba and the Wynnum sessions were only added after community feedback? Why weren't they just included from the beginning?
Again, Senator, that's something I probably have to take on notice. So I know those were communities that were particularly vocal and that stand to be impacted by the changes, and so we were keen to be able to accommodate them.
Yep. I guess the question that they asked was they're two of the most flood-affected areas, and so they were wondering why they weren't initially included and actually had to ask to be. So if I could get some background on that initial decision on notice, that would be helpful. Were labour hire used to staff any of the community meetings?
Not to my knowledge, Senator. I'm not aware of any labour hire people being used to staff any of this, no. We do use consultants in the design of the flight paths, and we do use acoustic specialists. So Trax International do quite a bit of work for us in helping us with our website, for example.
So were all of the people who conducted the community meetings, including the ones with the appointments, were they with people who had technical knowledge and expertise?
Yes.
Who could answer the questions?
Yes, Senator, they were. Yes.
Okay. All right. How am I going for time, Chair?
Let's do it a little bit longer to go.
Okay. I'll chug through as many as I can in one go. My next lot of questions are about sod drops. After the commitment secured by the Greens, Minister King directed Airservices in September 2024 to extend sod props, prioritising overwater operations, yet usage remains well below the target. My understanding is that it's 3.8% in the winter months, and which is far below the very small target of 5.3%. Meanwhile, monthly flights over the city have gone up by nearly 1,000. Why is usage still stuck at 3 to 4%, well below your own 5.3% target?
So, Senator, given sod props is an operational mode, I'm going to defer to my colleague, Mr Curran, to answer this, but I'll just make a couple of points first, and that is that approximately 50% of all operations at Brisbane are already conducted over water. We're certainly very keen to prioritise sod props, and we know we have an obligation to do that, and so we have been working very hard to ensure we do that. We know that each time the sod props mode is used, that the number of people overflown decreases from between 300,000 to 500,000. So it's very significant and very positive outcome for the people of Brisbane. And in fact, when those populations are overflown, they're overflown at a higher altitude. So it is a good positive outcome. But I will hand to Mr Curran, who can
just interested to know why we're still below target.
Thank you, Senator. And Peter Curran, Airservices Deputy Chief Executive Officer. You're quite right to say that we are below target. We set ourselves a target of 5.3%. We did that based on historical weather and traffic considerations. And as you mentioned, we have a direction to implement sod props, and we do wherever we can. For context, in the calendar year 2024, we utilised sod props for approximately 1.14% of all flights. which we've increased throughout calendar year 2025. Year to date, we're forecasting 3.2%. And so whilst that still falls short of the 5.3% you mentioned, it's 3 times nearly what we were doing last year. So we are making significant improvements in our use of sod props, particularly in sensitive times of day, nighttime operations. We're not there yet, though. We understand that the community expect us to continue to deliver, and wherever we can, we're seeking to utilise that. We are at the mercy of the weather to a large extent with regard to sod props. We can't use it when the wind is not right. We can't use it when the runway is wet, and we can't use it during high traffic periods. So there are some limitations. Nevertheless, we think on average we should be able to use it at 5.3% of the time, and we're working toward being able to do that.
So has there been more adverse weather than you originally modelled?
So on a year-to-year basis, yes. You'll see variations in any given year. Certainly, the first half of this year, with tropical cyclone, etc., some of those weather conditions, we had extremely wet weather conditions for a lengthy period of time. As I think you mentioned a moment ago, during the winter months when it's been drier, we've increased the rate, but not enough to get us up to 5.3%. So weather remains a factor. And we also hold ourselves to account to try to use the mode whenever the weather and traffic conditions permit, and we target to do that 100% of the time. We're not able to do it 100% of the time because of certain factors like traffic, military activities, etc., that sometimes limit that. But we publish that on our website on a daily and weekly basis to provide transparency to communities. So where we're falling short, we're being very transparent with communities around why.
So just to be clear, has the amount of adverse weather events been higher than what you originally modelled?
Yes is the answer. In fact, in July the weather was quite benign and we achieved 4.6%. So that driver of weather is very significant. And July, I live in Tenerife, so I'm very familiar with the area. The drier weather enabled a 1.5% increase in that usage in that month.
So I guess the question is, given that we seem to be seeing more and more adverse weather events as the climate's changing, do you expect that you'll ever actually meet the target of 5.3%?
So it's based on historical weather and traffic patterns, and so it goes to the rate of change. I guess I think we will have some years where we will have the weather conditions that will permit that, and other years where we will not be able to do it due to weather. And what we commit to doing is trying to deliver on that target and being transparent on the reasons why we don't, where we're not able to.
Yeah. When did sod props start?
Sod props commenced with the use of the new parallel runway in Brisbane in July of 2020, I think.
Okay, so we've had 5 years now, roughly, of that. I guess what I'm trying to understand is if we haven't had a year since it started where it's met the weather conditions that have been modelled, do you need to rethink the basis of the modelling?
So we did that modelling last year, based on historical performance. But I guess what I would say that I think gives some assurance to our commitment is that in 2024 we were able to deliver only 1.14%. In 2025 year to date, we're targeting 3.2%. Not there, but it's nearly triple what we were able to do last calendar year. And so we're working away to find ways to unlock our procedures to be able to do it more and more. And the air traffic control staff in Brisbane Tower and the terminal control unit are well across the importance of this to the community, and they're committed to it. Okay,
so which leads into my last question on this particular topic. Is the shortage of air traffic controllers contributing to not reaching the target?
Senator, we don't have a shortage of air traffic controllers in Brisbane Tower, but there have been very isolated occasions where we have had staffing as one of the reasons where we haven't been able to do sod props, and we've made that transparent and publicly clear on our website.
How often, on average, is staffing
It would be a very small number of times. I'd have to take it on notice.
Yeah,
it's
could
a
you
very
just take
small
on
number
notice,
of times,
like the percentage of time that it's a staffing issue that's contributed to that? All right, last 4 questions. This is, what do these relate to? Okay, still sod props and things, but more to do with nighttime flights. So residents under the Legacy runway report that on some nights there are up to 18 arrivals in a single hour.
one plane every 3 minutes, and 28 arrivals between 10 p.m. and midnight. All of these flights arriving from the city direction are forced onto a single overland path at night. Is that correct?
Senator, it's correct that the new runway is generally not available for use during a night-time period. I think it's from 11 p.m. until 6 a.m.
Okay, and why is that?
That was part of the conditions through the EIS, is my recollection.
Okay, so they're concentrated onto one path because it was a condition of the EIS?
Senator, that's my understanding, onto the original, the legacy runway as it's known.
Okay. Is there a cap that applies to nighttime arrivals?
Senator, there is not a cap for Brisbane Airport.
Okay. How many movements per hour does it take for sod drops to no longer be usable?
Senator, it depends on a range of factors, but generally it's around 20 movements per hour.
Okay, so there's no protection on busy nights then for people under that concentrated flight path?
Senator, most of the operations from 11 p.m. until 6 in the morning, in most hours there is less movements than 20 movements per hour.
Okay, although we've got people saying there's up to 28 arrivals between 10 p.m. and midnight.
Senator, there's quite a wealth of information on our website around the actual arrivals and departures into Brisbane on a per hourly basis, which I think is available for the community. It's certainly my understanding that there is not an hour that's regularly scheduled for more than 20 aircraft movements per hour during the night-time period.
Okay.
So from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m, I should be a bit more precise.
All right, thanks for that. That's me, Chair. I'm done. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well done. Thank you very much. We are now going to go on to Senator Mackenzie.
Thank you so much. And the Coalition has a lot of questions for you. Where are you?
Well, we're going to do
Where
the
are you,
15-minute
Mr. Curran? You're way away. Okay, just quickly, in October 22, you told this committee you had a plan to rebuild air traffic controller numbers. At each Senate estimates hearing since then, you promised improvements, and yet we are still seeing significant occurrences of last-minute ATC shortages at major airports. Can you provide the committee what number of controllers did you promise to hire and train? How many actually have you delivered?
Senator, the macro numbers, in other words, the numbers that we were talking about 3 years ago, are exceeded. We actually have the air traffic controllers that we require. In terms of the impact, we're less than 0.1% of the impacts on the delays in Australia. Are we there? No, we're not. At the last hearing, I committed to a change where we have standby arrangements. We're now recruiting for those, having secured the air traffic control numbers that we had presented here 12 months ago. So we've got 85 additional ones coming in. A lot of those will go on to what's called grade A, so effectively standby arrangements, similar to what airlines do with pilots and cabin crew.
Can you just table the full list? That'd be fantastic. Sydney is the beating heart of the network. What is Sydney's current controller requirement compared with how many are available to work today?
Senator, I'll pass to Mr Curran on the specifics in Sydney.
Senator, thank you. There's a number of parts to the system in Sydney. If I can, I'll step you through those. We have the Sydney Air Traffic Control Tower. The requirement to operate the Sydney Air Traffic Control Tower sits at 39. We refer to that as a mature demand. That covers a range of activities, training, administrative duties, etc. And today we have 41.5 air traffic control staff available. So they're current and available to be rostered. So 2.5 more than our requirement there. We actually employ our total supply in the Sydney Tower is 2 more again, but they're being used for other duties at present.
Okay. So on notice, please give the numbers for the for the tower, and for Sydney Approach Control, and table them month by month for the last 15 months. And I want that by rostered versus actual. Okay? Can I have that?
That's clear. Yes, Senator.
Excellent. So how many days has Sydney's capacity been cut primarily because of your staffing levels?
Senator, there has been 3 events throughout the course of this year, this calendar year. The first was on the 14th of February, where we had to reduce capacity. We had another event on the 22nd of June and an event on the 19th of September just recently.
Okay, thank you. And they were primarily because of staffing issues?
That's correct, Senator.
Yep.
And for further context, compared this year to date, compared to the instances where we've had delay attributable to Airservices in Sydney due to staffing, is less than half the instances of last year, calendar year 2024.
Okay.
So, as Mr Sharp says, we're not there yet, but we are at half of the level we were in 2024.
Of the 85 controllers for Sydney, you briefed out in September 25 that you had no ground delays in July and had 85 controllers this year. Where are the 85 in the pipeline? Are they all fully qualified and able to be rostered as of today?
Senator, the 65 of them are endorsed and in the hot seat.
And 20 are awaiting further
checks. And 20
checks.
are in the process,
Right.
going through the process.
Thank you. Over the past 18 months, how many times did you announce weather as the cause of delays when staffing was also a material factor?
Senator, I would expect the answer to that is 0. We publish our performance on a daily basis and we provide transparency to industry where Airservices is attributable as the reason for the delay. Where it's weather, we say it's weather, and where it's staffing, we say it's staffing. We have a mechanism on a weekly basis to engage with airlines where there is an engagement around. Sometimes there's a grey area as to what the level of attribution might be, and there is an engagement with airlines to try and land that so that we can understand exactly how we're performing. We also brought in the International Air Transport Association to conduct an audit of our processes and the way that we're actually attributing delay to ourselves as well as other industry actors. They made some recommendations. We've accepted that, but broadly the way we're approaching this was considered to be acceptable.
I want to move to CMATs now. What exact capability is operating now under CMATs? Where and what remains outstanding?
Senator, thank you. CMATS is the new air traffic control system. It is not yet operational. We have completed the facilities in Melbourne and Brisbane. We're going through software acceptance testing now with our supplier Thales, and we plan for that to go fully operational in late 2027.
Late 2027. Can you please table the current master schedule with the milestone dates?
Yes, Senator.
Thank you. Okay. What specific... I've got a whole series of questions on notice, but I note we're running short of time tonight. So, around governance assurance, commercial levers, since the audit that was conducted into One Sky, or the contract management of One Sky, and I have some significant questions I'd like you to answer on that. I just want to understand, the audit at the time also raised concerns about gifts and hospitality. Has anyone been disciplined? One of the comments were Airservice staff accepted and did not declare gifts, benefits of hospitality indicating limited compliance with Airservices Code of Conduct requirements and procedures on perceived and actual conflicts. Has anyone been disciplined?
Senator, thank you. The audit provided 18 instances, which was furnished by Thales as to instances that they had on their records where there was a gift for an Airservices staff member. In a number of those instances, the amount of the gift was less than $100, which is our threshold for reporting and providing transparency through our website, which we publish quarterly. So there was.
What was the biggest?
The largest number was $787 for a number of...
what was it?
A number of people who attended a dinner. I don't have the detail of the numbers.
So someone bought Tallis bought dinner for?
That's my understanding. In terms of the process that was gone through, there was no wrongdoing found by the ANAO, and I can confirm that of the staff members who received those gifts or benefits, in fact, none of them continue to be employed at Airservices. It wasn't in relation to this. It wasn't a discipline.
So I did ask. So
no longer.
I get all that. I understand very well perceived and actual conflicts of interest. I also understand when ANAO reports actually find wrongdoing and when they don't. Was anyone disciplined around the findings out of the audit?
Senator,
yes
no.
or no?
No.
No. I would like a full list of gifts and/or hospitality received. You said there were 18 items or 18 individuals?
18 instances, and they are published in the ANAO report.
Great. And I would also like senior executive, like what levels were these people? Were these the receptionist?
They were generally program level, but I'd have to take it on notice.
Senior executives?
There may have been some, yes.
Who should have known better?
There may have been some senior executives. I'd have to take it on notice to provide you.
Do you actually train? Do you expect your senior executives to understand the need to declare gifts and hospitality appropriately?
Senator, we do.
Is that, have you had to revise? Have you had to revise your internal processes?
Senator, we have strengthened that process. That's correct.
Just in terms of the Senate inquiry into the impact and mitigation of aircraft noise, to what extent has the organisation sought to operationalise the recommendations, particularly recommendation 16 around community engagement?
Thank you, Senator. In terms of those recommendations, yes, the recommendations have been operationalised in large part. So recommendation 4 was the support for sod props at Brisbane Airport. We've already spoken to that, and clearly that's a priority for us. Recommendation 5 was the prioritisation of continuous descent operations and continuous climb operations for Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne. And there is a limited trial of continuous descent operations known as predictive sequencing, which will be trialled currently in Melbourne, Sydney and Perth. And if you want further detail about that, again, I'll defer to Mr Curran for that operational mode. But certainly we have taken action in respect to that. Recommendation 16, which is the improvement of the community engagement framework, through robust processes for considering, responding to and implementing outcomes of consultation. That has also...
For Brisbane Phase 6 and Package 3, yep.
Yes, that's correct, yep, and so that has occurred. We have strengthened our community engagement standard, and it was benchmarked and based on international best practice at the time it was developed and launched. I think it was October 2023, to the best of my knowledge. And then the last of the recommendations...
So, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. So you're talking about the engagement that was launched in October 2023. These recommendations relate to a report that was done into how you didn't have robust consultation processes in place, and the communities impacted made their voices very well known, as the Green senators and as coalition senators in Brisbane hearings can attest to, and your colleagues are nodding. So the fact that you're telling me that your response to recommendation 16 is you had robust systems in place launched in October 23, the recommendation came out after the launch of those. So I would argue that that hasn't been dealt with, if that's your answer. And Mr Curran and Mr Sharp know that. So come back in December with a better answer for recommendation 16, please. And also recommendation 20, which was that the department works with Airservices Australia and the Noise Ombudsman and the aviation industry stakeholders to create a modern, user-friendly website that provides a single source of truth for the community, and that you should consult with the community about that. Have you started to work with those other internal stakeholders in particular around developing a website?
Yes, we have, Senator. So at the moment we are, in fact, going to go to tender for our noise and flight path monitoring system, and that will involve an uplift in relation to the information and data that we provide on our website. So that's one thing that we have in train already. But we have improved the website significantly in recent months. For example, our NAP reporting, so our noise abatement procedure reporting, has been significantly uplifted as well and is now in place for 10 of Australia's major airports.
And what community consultations have you done around that?
So as far as the NAP reporting is concerned, for example, with our consultation for Western Sydney, we have specifically consulted in relation to the NAP monitoring and reporting there. We've had input from the ANO in particular in relation to our NAP reporting and monitoring.
But communities, impacted communities in Brisbane.
So I'd have to take that on notice, Senator, in terms of specifically consulting the Brisbane community.
Please talk to the impacted communities.
Can you please allow the witness to complete her answer before you jump in?
I just worry I'm not speaking clearly.
Sorry, witness is responding. Allow her to respond.
Sure.
Thank you. So in terms of Brisbane, I'm not aware as to whether or not we specifically consulted in relation to the NAP, but certainly as part of our major noise action plan for Brisbane, we've consulted extensively.
It was about the website and recommendation training. I'll be checking in December. I'll throw to Susie McDonald, please. Senator McDonald.
Yes, I'll give the call to
Thank
Senator
you.
McDonald.
My apologies.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening. I've got some questions around Townsville Airport and specifically the decommissioning of the ILS system there. Who should I direct my questions?
Senator, I'll pass to Mr Curran.
I'll do my best to answer questions.
Thank you very much. So there's going to be a temporary decommissioning of the ILS for runway 1 at Townsville Airport, a decommissioning date of the 22nd of January 2026 till a planned recommission date of August 2027, 18 months later. How firm is the planned recommissioning date of August 2027?
Senator, I will have to take that on notice. I apologise, but Townsville air traffic control is provided by the Australian Air Force. We do support some of their infrastructure through technical maintenance services, etc., but we don't provide air traffic control services at Townsville. I can get that information and take it on notice.
Well, it's not the air traffic control, it's the instrument landing service and it's the infrastructure around that. And so, okay, so you're telling me that the Townsville Airport is telling the...
It would be in regard to the instrument landing system, a combination between the Royal Australian Air Force and the airport operator. But we do provide some maintenance services for the Air Force, and so we would have information around that. It affects the network more broadly, and we work very closely with the Air Force in regard to those sort of matters. Okay,
well, this is interesting because the Townsville Airport is telling everybody that they're engaging actively with Airservices Australia and CASA, that all submissions will be reviewed in consultation with the relevant airspace stakeholders and regulatory authorities, and that they're putting your name
Senator,
on the page.
It may well be that we provide the maintenance services there, that we actually do the engineering work there. That doesn't mean that we're a decision-making body with regard to the dates of when these things are turned on or off. But it is something that, as I said, I would expect we could be involved in, and we can provide that information on notice.
And Senator, if I may, the master plans and changes are often put out for consultation across all stakeholders. So we receive a number of these plans from regional airports. That doesn't mean we are a decision maker. And we'll revert with the information we have on it.
Okay, so appreciating all of this, I'm concerned because it's been put to the community that the ILS will be decommissioned for 18 months. So, as you've identified, Air Force, big general aviation and commercial aviation centre. They've raised that there will be safety issues, that they won't be able to use, they might be having to use visual approaches to the airport. And given that will cover, 2 wet seasons, 2 cyclone seasons, I am I'm really frustrated because I already fly into Mount Isa regularly and am turned back over the strip back to Townsville because there's not suitable instrument landing services. And I get that you're saying this is not your problem, but you're not the responsible entity. But you understand why everybody thinks it's Airservices. You're being thrown under the bus. And we can't land safely at Townsville Airport.
We'll revert with the information centre. We don't have, and we're not privy to it here.
Okay. So just walk me through then, who is going to be responsible for the decision making around the decommissioning of the ILS?
Senator, we would have to take that on notice because we would need to check with the Royal Australian Air Force, the airport operator, and also to the extent we're involved in maintenance, we would just need to understand exactly what the arrangements are that are in place. What I would also note, and it's not as good as an ILS, that's certainly the point I think you're making,
yes.
There are typically other options for other types of navigation aids that can facilitate approaches. They often have a higher minima, a higher decision point for pilots to have to make, and there will typically also be a GPS approach system as well, which would be in place. Again, that may have a higher minima, a higher decision point for pilots. So we can provide all that information on notice.
Okay, so I remain concerned because major airport in Northern Australia, we already have problems with not being able to land at Mount Isa during the wet season, telling me that we may not be able to land because of the higher decision-making point for pilots in Townsville. You know, this is unacceptable in a modern day age for an 18-month period. I'm surprised that this is not a briefing note for you to come to estimates, that you've just been sent out and, you know, good luck with that. Just tell them it's Air Force and we'll sort it out later, because that's not okay. This is, yes, it's an Air Force shared facility, but this is the significant landing point for disaster, normal travel, health, RFDS, GA normally. I mean, I'm surprised nobody's briefed you and said, hey, you'll probably get a question on this.
Well, I'd suspect, given the decision doesn't sit with us, we will be the coordinator and we'll find out the background to it. We can't comment because we need to ascertain the information. There's a large number of smaller airports where master plans come out. I don't have briefing notes on those, but we can certainly go to the relevant stakeholders and clarify something, which is what we can do in this instance.
Again, and I understand what you're saying, but I don't think this is acceptable. That I appreciate you saying you're not the decision maker, but everybody's saying that this is going ahead, these are the dates, Airservices is handling it, but what you're telling me is you're not handling it.
I note your comments, and we've answered the question and we'll be reverting with the information.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, but hopefully Townsville Airport, Air Force Services are listening to this and going, perhaps we should have done better for Airservices rather than name them as the authority, because they're asking people to put forward submissions to your decision and your actions. But I do want to get on the record, Minister, representing the Minister. This is not acceptable to have Townsville Airport out for 18 months with substandard technology. That was okay in the olden days, but is not okay now for a modern airport with, you know, you live through the same stuff, cyclones, wet seasons, and everybody saying, oh, well, too bad, Mount Isa and Townsville are, you know, somehow second-class regions in Northern Australia, the places that we love and think are important.
I certainly hear what you're saying, Senator, and just a footnote to that, I was in your part of the world last week and it was very nice to be able to land and then get over to Palm Island. I thought I'd just share that with you.
Excellent. Well, I'm pleased.
And then get out as well.
Yes, yes. Well, it truly is. I just can't make this point strongly enough to the department officials who are listening. The fact that it happens in Mount Isa, bad, but to think that we will be back to the same sort of services in Townsville is not acceptable. You know, 18 months. So look forward to seeing you in December when you will come. You'll respond to me before that, thank you, and come prepared for the same questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator McDonald. We're going to go to Senator Colbeck.
Thank you, Chief. Let's go to the other end of the country, south. and the approaches and the new system into Hobart, can I ask where that final process is currently at? Now, I know that you looked at some additional paths out over the water. Off the east coast was one of those, and my understanding is that you've settled once you pass the convergence point on 2 circuits, if you like, or loops back around onto runway 30.
So you're correct. So back in 22, there was a post-implementation review of the original decisions, and 11 recommendations arose out of that.
Can I just ask? I just want to clarify a point for myself. When the original 2017 path was put in place, there was only one path past the convergence point. Is that correct?
I recollect that's the case, but I'd have to check the detail on it.
Yeah.
And that was part of the concern from the community. Were we actually spreading those flight paths adequately from a community perspective?
Yeah. You had a significant focus of attention, if you want to call it that, over one particular community at Dunalley, yes. I think it was. And then after the consultations, there were 2 flight paths that were put in place.
Yes.
One slightly east of Dunalley, and then another one which went over what is now the problematic area, if I put it in those terms, so Carlton Primrose Sands.
Yes, and then we did further engagement. There was a noise abatement procedure put in place, and then July, August this year, so very recently, we conducted the last round of engagements. So that was on 2 recommendations. So one of them was around shifting runway 30 AR2 3 kilometres further to the east, and then the other was around a recommendation to move runway 30 east over the water. And both of those have been run to ground. But I'll pass to Ms O'Dea just to talk through any more detail there.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the question, Senator. Yes, so the engagement on these community suggested options, so recommendation 4, which was the moving of the existing arrival path 2 to 3 kilometres to the east, and recommendation 6, which was effectively to move the east coast route in its entirety over water. The engagement for those 2 suggestions was completed on 16 July this year, and we released our assessment outcome. And as a result of that outcome, we are currently working on preferred design for recommendation 4 only before a decision is made on implementation. Recommendation 4 was found to provide a net noise benefit. I'll pick that up in a minute. That was because it would reduce the number of people overflown quite significantly, from 971 people down to 94 people. It also will reduce the number of people subject to noise levels above 60 decibels from over 1,000 to approximately 100. It does involve a small increase in CO2 emissions, but when we considered that, we found it was reasonable given the substantial community noise improvement that will be a result of it. In comparison to that, recommendation 6 provided no net noise benefit and was opposed by 98% of the people who would actually notice that change.
So that was the one out of the water?
That was the one where we moved the east coast.
Which brought a whole new cohort out of the
That's correct.
That were worried about dark skies and
That's correct.
all that stuff, yeah.
Yes, and in fact it impacted Maria Island as well,
yep.
you may recall. So we opted not to proceed at this stage with recommendation 6. And we will work on the, as I said, the preferred design for recommendation 4.
So what recommendation 4 leaves you with 2 flight paths past the convergence point?
Yes, I believe that's correct, Senator. I might have to check with others who are more familiar with it, but yes, I think that's correct.
So given the evidence that we heard at the hearing in Hobart from, I think, a pretty credible witness who owns the nearby airport and knows the area pretty well, but the practicalities of 2 aircraft being in the airspace post the convergence point at one time, why wouldn't it be possible to revert back to a single point that mitigates all of those overflights, particularly Carlton Primrose Sands?
We have our technical expert here, Senator, so I'll ask Ms.
Love to hear a technical expert.
Thank you. It's highly likely Ms. Marshall was actually at those meetings.
Probably sitting in the back row quietly listening to us.
Yes, thank you, Senator. I'm Donna Marshall, Head of Community Engagement with Airservices Australia. Excuse me. The two flight paths to runway 30 have very different purposes. One of them is what we call a long approach, and the other one's a short approach. They're the kind of, I guess, colloquial names we give them.
Yep, that's fine. I'm comfortable with that.
Okay, so the RMPAR, or the short approach, is a GPS-guided approach, whereas your RNAV, or your long approach, can be used by any aircraft.
Okay.
And so the reason we have two paths, because the community has suggested that we combine it and just have the one path. But to do that, we would have to put all aircraft on the RNAV, or the long approach, and that means we don't have the short approach. The benefit of that short approach is that it provides fuel savings, provides CO2 emission savings, and the industry has equipped their aircraft to be able to fly it. And so that's why we have the two paths there, and that's why we need to maintain both, because they serve different purposes.
Okay, so with the RMP, which is the shorter path.
Yep.
And Mr. Sharp, you would understand what I'm going to say because you're on the email list that I'm reading from. So the concerns with respect to aircraft passing at low height, below 1,000 feet, which is the allegation. How do we manage those things? Because we know, and we heard during the inquiry, that height is one of the factors with respect to noise, and this allegation's been a consistent one from before the date of the hearing, and it remains in the emails that we both continue to receive. So how do we respond to that particular point? Because that would be a feature of that shorter flight path.
Yeah, that's correct, Senator. Generally, the RMPARs come in much closer to the runway. That's how they achieve their fuel and emissions savings. And so they will be lower because they're joining final approach much closer to the runway. Over Primrose Sands, Carlton River, the aircraft are generally between 2,000 and 3,000 feet. I'm aware that some community members have said that they're at 1,000 feet. The reporting...
And below?
Yeah, and below. The reporting that we have publicly available on our website, which comes from our radar data feed that our air traffic controllers use, so it's the same data, shows that the vast majority are between 2,000 and 3,000 feet. But what we can do, and it goes back to what Ms O'Day was just talking about with recommendation 4, we're seeking to shift that 2 to 3 kilometres away from those communities. And so the community of Primrose Sands, Carlton River, that get the RMPAR flights at the moment at the 2 to 3,000 feet, they won't get those flights anymore. They'll be 2 to 3 kilometres to the east and mainly tracking over vacant land, noting there is a fringe of residential development on either side. So that's how we're actually addressing those concerns.
Okay. So I won't look at the noise levels because I'm sure that you're doing more noise monitoring as a part of the process, and that would be published too on...
Yes, Senator, at the moment we don't have noise monitors in Hobart at the moment. We did have noise monitors there during the post-implementation review.
Yep.
That data is still available on our website. Generally, when we change a flight path location, we will put some temporary noise monitoring in following that time just to help us with our review to make sure that the flight path is operating as we expected it to. And so it is likely that if we shift the RMPAR, the 2 to 3 kilometres to the east, that would come with some temporary noise monitoring for that purpose.
Okay. So the other one that concerns me, and I did ask the residents when we were at the Hobart hearing whether they had had any testing done on the water in their tanks because of the allegations that have been made with respect to the impact on their drinking water, which is tank water. Have you done any testing to verify this or not? I mean, it's a concerning allegation to continuously have in the public domain, and I would have thought doing some testing could deal with it, one way or the other.
Senator,
Do we not want to know?
The impacts of fuel on water supplies is an issue that's been around aviation for many, many years. I'm not sure if you've got any specific information on the Hobart.
Not specific to Hobart, but we certainly do regular testing. We take a risk-based management approach in relation to the PFAS, potential impacts of PFAS, if that's what you're referring to, Senator,
no,
or is it more the fuel?
Look, it's in a series of emails that I've received since before the inquiry and since. It's a regular allegation that's made. My assessment would be that it's based on a report that has been done somewhere, and these residents are saying, well, this is what that report showed, this is what's happening to us. So it's a correlation, not a demonstrated outcome, but...
Yes, I understand.
Still...
Yes, Senator.
Can I just interrupt briefly to ask how much longer do you need?
We're nearly there.
Right, because we have 7 agencies to get through.
No, I've nearly finished. This is the last bit of the question.
Well, Senator, I can just briefly answer that. Airservices Australia isn't a water testing agency. We don't have capability in that area, and generally it's the state authorities that do water testing, water quality testing and so forth. However, there have been a number of studies done both internationally and within Australia around the impact of aircraft operations on water supplies and tank water. The amount of emissions and particulate matter that aviation contributes to that is minuscule compared to other environmental sources. That's what the studies have shown to this point, and so we base our understanding on those impacts on those studies.
Could
that
you
have been
provide
completed.
to the committee some of that
We'll take that
source
on notice.
information so that we can have a look at that? So, finally, you're looking at following recommendation 4.
Yes, that's correct.
What is the time frame for finalisation of that process and the mitigation effects that come with it?
Yes, thank you, Senator. So we plan to present the preferred design and an environmental assessment to the community for a final round of engagement before the end of this calendar year, and we propose to make an announcement regarding our decision early next year.
Okay. So, what will be the process to test your assumptions with respect to the impact that you are projecting in relation to the modified flight paths?
Your final question,
Yeah.
Senator. Your 15 minutes is up.
So, Senator, just in terms of the process, as I said, we will follow our community engagement standard. We will take it back to the community for further engagement, and we will then proceed to work on the preferred...
When will the aircraft start flying?
The aircraft will probably not start flying for at least another year, Senator. From what I understand, it's a very complex process. Once we've actually made our decision and made an announcement about that decision, it will be between 6 and 12 months before that can be implemented due to the processes I'm sure that Mr Curran can talk to in some more detail regarding training and working with the airlines to be able to actually implement those flight path changes.
Since I'm being wound up, perhaps I'll have another conversation in December. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Colbeck. We are going to suspend for a couple of minutes to change over, but thank you to Airservices Australia, and we're inviting Civic Aviation Safety Authority to come forward.